The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 200 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, man. What up, man? 200.
I know. It's hard to believe, isn't it?
That's amazing, man.
200 episodes of Unsolved. Well, we got 220 something on TCAT. It's a lot of episodes, man.
I feel like I should get like a watch or something because, you know, it's like...
Well, when you retire, you get to watch when you retire.
Oh, I know you keep saying you're going to get me this fancy Swatch watch.
Oh, yeah. My wife's got some from back in her big hair 80s days.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I'm not going to buy one, but she says she has one.
Well, I figured. I mean, you weren't going to
give
get
it to
me a Swatch watch. I was like, what is that?
It's purple, but I figure it'll go with most of the things you wear.
Well, you know, it is a favorite color of mine. One of the many.
So, you know, obviously, big episode for us. But before we get into anything else, let's give our Patreon shout outs. We had Kimberly from Dallas.
Hey, Kimberly from Dallas.
Tammy Holtz.
Hey, Tammy.
Sahara Close.
Hey, what's going on, Sahara?
Jennifer Fraga.
What's up, Fraga?
Alyssa Lindsay.
Hey, Alyssa.
Don Rutherford.
What's up, Rutherford?
Jordan Waters.
Hey, Jordan.
Simone Brooks.
Hey, Simone.
Teal Penguin.
Oh, that's a good color on a penguin. Teal.
Amy Harley.
Hey, Amy.
Sally Carlson.
What's up, Sally?
Joyce.
Hey, Joyce.
Danielle Brown.
Hey, appreciate it, Danielle.
Carly Harris.
Hey, Carla.
Kylie.
Hey, Kylie.
Emily Dugan.
What's up, Dugan?
Toja Nye.
What's up, Toja?
Sarah Jane.
Hey, Sarah.
Susan Lopez.
Well, hello, Susan.
Marissa Rossetti.
Rossetti.
Morgan Epp.
What's up, Epp?
Justin McDonald.
Hey, Justin.
Melissa Holt.
Appreciate that, Melissa.
And Dejua Neria.
Well, thank you, Dejuja.
Close enough?
Yeah.
I'm not even sure I'm even close, but we'll see. And if we go back into the vault, Gibbs, this week we selected Lark.
Yeah, we appreciate Lark. Remember their brother, Lurk?
Lurk and Lark?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. We appreciate all the new support and the continued support. We had some great PayPal donations as well from Sue Lewis.
Hey, Sue.
Adrian Mahar.
Appreciate that, Mayhaw.
Linda McLean.
Hey, Linda.
And Laura Western.
Well, everybody needs a little Western in their life.
So thanks to all of you. So right now, Gibbs, we have an episode out on True Crime All the Time. We're talking about Eddie Mosley. And this is a fascinating case. This guy was one of Fort Lauderdale's most prolific killers and quite possibly one of Florida's worst predators.
Really was.
I mean, we're talking upwards of what police believe could be 30 murders.
Yeah.
And over 100 rapes.
Big numbers.
Committed by this guy. It's also a fascinating case because two individuals were wrongfully in prison for crimes that this guy committed.
So crazy how that worked out.
We want to give a quick shout out to Lindsay Skolaric for assisting with the research in this episode. We're talking about the 1956 unsolved murders of the Grimes sisters. I think it's a good case for number 200. You know, this is a case that has fascinated people for a very long time.
Yeah.
Armchair detectives, online sleuths, all kinds of people over the years have tried to figure out and continue to try to figure out what happened to Barbara and Patricia Grimes. This case takes place in the windy city of Chicago, Illinois.
Little Chi-town.
I love Chicago, man.
Yeah.
It's such a fun town. There's a lot to do.
You like those hot dogs?
Oh my gosh. Don't get me started on Chicago
pizza.
hot dog. The one thing I'm not a big fan of is Chicago pizza.
You don't like that deep dish, do
I
you?
don't. I know a lot of people really like it. I am more of a New York style pizza guy.
Yeah. I like it, but it's in moderation, It's so
It's so
heavy.
thick. Yeah, so heavy.
Yeah.
So I mentioned it, right? This case is about the Grimes sisters, Barbara and Patricia. The sisters' parents were Joseph and Loretta Grimes, who had 7 children. One died shortly after birth. We didn't find a lot about the sisters' early years, but we know Joseph was a truck driver. And in 1951, Loretta was a single mother after she and Joseph divorced. So you talk about having your hands full. Loretta had hers full, raising 6 children. They lived at 3634 South Damon Avenue in Chicago's McKinley Park neighborhood. In 1956, 15-year-old Barbara was a sophomore at Thomas Kelly High School, and 13-year-old Patricia, who was also known as Petey, was a 7th grader at St. Maurice Catholic School. The girls loved school. They loved attending dances, music, and movies. In 1956, the girls were obsessed with Elvis Presley. And frankly, what teenage girl wasn't back then?
Oh, man, Elvis,
You know how much I love the King.
Yeah.
I have since I was a little kid. My mom used to listen to Elvis, and it grew on me and stayed with me throughout the years. And I still listen to Elvis from time to time.
Remember when you used to have hair like Elvis?
I did. I actually had very thick Elvis-like hair. It's now gone.
Well, I've seen your school book pictures, and you're like the only kid that has a pompadour.
Man, I've always had my own style. I always did my own thing.
They look good on you.
I think the key thing about Barbara and Patricia was, even though they had 5 other siblings, the sisters were inseparable, right? They did everything together. According to crime reporter Robert Lauren of the Anderson Herald, on Friday, December 28th, 1956, Barbara and Patricia decided they wanted to go to the movie that day. The girls told their mother they were going to the evening showing of Love Me Tender, starring Elvis Presley. They also told their mother that they would be home after the movie ended unless they stayed to watch it again, but even so would be home no later than midnight. The girls left their home after dinner with just a little more than $2, which gave them enough to see the movie twice and get some snacks.
Cheap movies back then.
Yeah, it was 1956.
I don't think $2 would get you a bottle of water today.
No, a bottle of water at a movie place is probably $4. I mean, if you think about the skyrocketing price of not only movie tickets, right? I understand movie ticket prices go up, but do you know how little it costs to make popcorn?
Oh, I know.
It's really not that expensive to make popcorn, but man, they charge you.
And then they try to upsell you.
And soda as well. Soda's not that expensive.
No.
It was around 7:30 p.m. when the 2 girls headed off for a 1.5 mile walk to the Brighton Theater at 4223 Archer Avenue in the Brighton Park neighborhood. Now, it's not known for sure exactly how the girls got to Brighton Park. They could have walked, or they could have taken a bus. They had done both in the past, because this was the 11th time, at least, that the girls had gone to see Elvis in his movie Love Me Tender.
I'm guessing it was a very popular movie.
Oh, I'm sure it was. I mean, he was so popular in 1956. If you think about it, that's when he really exploded onto the scene.
Seemed like he was in a lot of movies. I remember seeing on Saturday afternoons, like Elvis marathons, movies that he was in.
Yeah, I mean, early on, he wanted to be in movies. Later on, he got into these like long-term movie deals that really kind of derailed, I don't want to say derailed his music career, but kind of set it back a little bit. He couldn't get out of these movies.
Right. Well, I know you like to sound like Elvis. You like to sing like Elvis.
I do. In the shower when I'm alone.
Yeah.
Love me tender, love me sweet. Thank you. Thank you very much.
There you go.
When the girls didn't come home at 10:30, Loretta assumed that they must have stayed to watch the second showing. So I don't think you can discount at all the love that these girls had for Elvis. I mean, to watch the movie 11, 12, 13 times, twice in a row, they couldn't get enough.
He just had that appeal, man.
Well, I will say this, and I'm biased because I really do like Elvis, but you can say you like his music, you don't like his music. What is very hard to argue is how magnetic he was, how much people were drawn to him, especially women, young girls. They just really were drawn to Elvis in a way that, I don't think really had ever happened before. Now you might, you saw it later with the Beatles and people like that, but I can't think of anyone before Elvis Presley who had the same effect on people that he did. Loretta sent her oldest daughter, Teresa, and the girl's younger brother, Joey, to meet them at the bus stop at midnight. It was late, right? That's very late for, a 13-year-old, a 15-year-old to be out.
Right.
So, okay, go down to the bus stop, meet them, walk them home. Teresa and Joey waited for the bus, but Barbara and Patricia didn't exit the bus when it pulled up to the stop. The siblings waited and watched as two more buses pulled up to the stop, and both times did not see their sisters get off at the bus stop.
That's a problem.
Yeah, I'm sure it had to be somewhat alarming. Teresa and Joey rushed home to tell their mother that the girls did not get off at the bus stop. Loretta Grimes knew something was wrong. She called a few friends and neighbors, but had no luck in finding the girls. At this point, she called the Chicago Police Department and reported them missing. This was 2:15 a.m. on December 29th. At first, police asked her if she thought maybe the girls had run away, but Loretta quickly denied that as an option. Barbara and Patricia's father, Joseph, joined Loretta in the search efforts during this time. Loretta told the Chicago PD that Barbara was 5 foot tall, weighed 100 pounds. She had dark brown hair and brown eyes with a fair complexion. She was wearing a gray tweed skirt, yellow blouse, a gray babushka.
So that's that fancy scarf tied over their hair and underneath their chin to keep the hair from getting all messed up.
A babushka.
A babushka.
A gray 3/4 length coat, white bobby socks, and black ballerina shoes. Patricia was 5'3". She weighed 108 pounds. She also had dark hair and brown eyes with a fair complexion. That night, she wore blue jeans with a yellow sweater, a black sports jacket with white stripes down the sleeves, a white babushka, and black slippers. I don't think you see the babushka all that much nowadays.
No, not a lot of babushka out there.
But you also don't have the bouffant hairstyles of, that time period that you need to keep in place.
Well, that's true.
I don't know if that's exactly what they were designed for. I don't think it was, but I think that's maybe how they were using them.
Yeah, protect that hair.
The Chicago Police Department dispatched about 100 officers in their initial search for Barbara and Patricia. That's a lot.
That's a whole lot. We've covered other unsolved cases where didn't have a fraction of that.
Well, and it also surprises me that in 1956, police would start the search so quickly. Because you and I have seen time and time again, older cases where police said, no, you got to wait 48 hours. You got to wait 72 hours before we'll do anything. They got on it pretty quickly. And 100 officers, that's a lot.
That's a whole bunch of people looking.
And these police officers were joined by community volunteers, and both groups went door to door in the Brighton Park neighborhood.
So they're doing everything they need to do initially, right?
they're actually doing a lot more than I think what you and I have seen in many, many cases of young kids who have disappeared back then. Today, the response is usually pretty quick, pretty rapid.
Right.
But in 1956, this is a heck of a response. But when the girls were not found quickly, a rumor started that maybe the Grimes sisters took a bus to Memphis to see their idol, Elvis.
You know, he was extremely popular. There was a draw towards him. So why wouldn't you want to go maybe catch a glimpse at the king?
And I think them in particular, when we talked about the fact that, they were so enamored with Elvis.
Yeah.
They had seen, his latest movie 11 times at least.
It's an obsession.
That's bordering on, okay, an obsession. And you could see where people maybe would say, this is a possibility.
Right.
But according to a New York Daily article, Elvis himself attempted to squash this rumor once he heard about the disappearance and the girls' love for him. Elvis said on a radio show, if you are good Presley fans, you'll go home and ease your mother's worries. So not only was the police response massive, you have a large number of volunteers coming out very quickly to search for the sisters. You have Elvis Presley, the biggest star probably in the world at the time, talking on a radio program about these two girls.
Yeah. Saying, girls, if you're out there, go home to your mama.
At the time, it was Chicago's most extensive search for a missing person or persons. Hundreds of police officers were assigned full-time to search the entire city and surrounding towns and cities in the county. The Grimes Family Church offered up a $1,000 reward. The Chicago PD put together a task force to focus on the Grimes sisters' disappearance. It was reported that volunteers printed and distributed over 15,000 flyers throughout the city.
So, I mean, it seems like everything's moving the way an operation like that should be, right? Everybody's hands-on. They're making sure awareness is out there. They're looking in all the right places or all the right places they feel they need to be looking to find these girls. I just feel like you could tell it's a strong community outreach.
Yeah, I think you'd be hard pressed to find anything that they could have done that they didn't do.
Right.
I mean, it sounds like they were doing everything they could. But as you can imagine, Loretta was having a very tough time. She had to be treated for hysteria and anxiety by her doctor.
Oh, I think you'd have to give me horse tranquilizers.
Yeah, I would be out of my mind with worry. It was said that the task force had several hundred leads within days of the girl's disappearance. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a lot of leads, but I also think it speaks to, how quickly everything came together, right? How much manpower was put into the searches.
Right.
And this task force was put together so quickly that within just a few days, you have 100 leads.
And we know how that goes, right? You're going to have some good leads.
Yeah.
And you're going to have some really bad leads or really no leads.
Off the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have everything. The task force investigators talked to 15-year-old Dorothy Fisher. She told investigators that she spoke to both girls inside the theater at 10:30 p.m. before she headed home. She said the girls were alone when she left them. Investigators then talked to Ann Povich, who worked as a waitress near the theater. She recalled Barbara and Patricia Grimes with two men. She said one was short and had black hair, and the other looked like Elvis.
Elvis in the building.
No.
Outside the building.
I'm sure it wasn't Elvis, or she would have known if it actually was Elvis.
Right.
But Ann wasn't the only person who reported seeing the girls that night with an Elvis lookalike, or, a guy that looked like Elvis. Some witnesses said they saw the girls get into a car with this guy and drive off. The vehicle was believed to be a Mercury. Another witness, Joseph Smoke, a bus driver, told investigators he thought he saw the Grimes sisters getting off his bus Friday at 11:05 p.m. at Western Avenue. A security guard for the Admiral Corporation, Jack Franklin, said on Saturday morning at 9:40 a.m. he gave directions to two girls he believed to be the Grimes sisters. They were standing on Central Park Avenue. Jack said he remembers them because he tried to help them locate the bus stop.
And he told them where the bus stop was. And from what he recalls, they were a little bit rude and said, "Oh, shut up."
Which seems very strange to me that they would want help locating the bus stop, but then when they get the answer,
right,
they would tell the person giving the answer to shut up. That seems a little strange. A classmate of the girls named Catherine Borick said she saw them walking by with two other girls that she didn't recognize at 6:30 p.m. while she was in a restaurant. So I think, Gibbs, if you're the family, you have to be at least somewhat encouraged by these sightings, because that would mean that both sisters are alive and well on Saturday in the city of Chicago, as opposed to if you have no sightings, then what are you thinking? Nobody knows, or nobody saw them after 10:30 or after they left the theater?
Right.
If you have no sightings on Saturday.
I mean, you're taking any positive news that you can get.
On Tuesday, January 1st, 1957, another bus driver, Robert Curran, told investigators the sisters were on his bus around 2:30 p.m. According to the Chicago Reader, on January 2nd, a hotel night clerk named George Pope told investigators that the Grimes sisters asked for a room for the night around 9 p.m. But because they were minors, he refused them. Another eyewitness report came in on January 3rd from three employees at the Kresge department store.
They were pretty popular department stores, and later they'd be known as the Kmart Corporation.
The three employees said that they saw the two sisters at the record counter, listening to who else but Elvis.
The King.
I think you can look at this sighting a couple of different ways. You can look at it as, wow, it must be correct because they were big Elvis fans.
Right.
So more than likely it was them. You can also look at, okay, well, how much information had come out by this time? It was probably well known that they were Elvis fans. So did these employees just see two girls listening to Elvis and assume it was the Grimes sisters?
And that could have been exactly what happened.
Yeah, I think that's why you can look at, that sighting two different ways. And then the eyewitness reports really started flooding in around January 5th. But the problem with some of these reports was that, they were all over the place. They had the sisters in multiple locations at the exact same time.
And that's a problem when you have such a popular case that's out there in the media. It's easy for people to say, "Oh, I saw those girls over here. No, I saw them over here."
Some even had the Grimes sisters in other states, such as Wisconsin, Tennessee. But again, to go back to your point, Gibbs, how much of this is out in the media, and how often are people seeing two girls walking down the street or, sitting in a restaurant or whatever it is,
sure,
that maybe resemble the description put out of the Grimes sisters?
It wouldn't be hard to mistakenly identify somebody.
Many locals, including some law enforcement, were worried that the girls might have met the same fate as three boys had the previous fall. On October 18th, 1955, the nude bodies of three young boys, 13-year-old John Schussler, his brother, 11-year-old Anton Jr., and their 14-year-old friend, Robert Peterson, were found in a ditch in the Robinson Woods Forest Preserve on the northwest side of Chicago. 2 days before, the boys had traveled from Jefferson Park to downtown Chicago to see Walt Disney Productions' The African Lion at the Loop Theater. It was after that they went missing.
Well, I can see how some would find some similarities there. You know, the girls went to go see a movie. They traveled from their neighborhood to where the theater was, and afterwards didn't come home, assumed missing.
In early January, so this was very early still in the Grimes sisters' disappearance, the FBI got involved with the task force to assist with their missing person investigation. The Chicago Reader reported that Loretta had received a series of ransom letters. She received one ransom letter that demanded she come to Milwaukee, Wisconsin on January 12th and place ransom money inside a downtown Catholic church. The FBI drove her to Milwaukee and they told her to place the ransom money next to her on a pew inside the church. According to the letter, Barbara was supposed to sit next to Loretta and grab the money and leave. Once Barbara delivered the money, the sisters would be released. But no one ever showed up that day inside the church.
And how heartbreaking would that be for Loretta?
Devastating.
Yeah.
Because this letter is providing you light at the end of the tunnel. Very specific in that, number one, Barbara's going to be there.
Right.
And once we get this money, you're going to get both of your daughters back.
Yeah. And this whole traumatizing event will be over.
But it didn't happen. And later, investigators determined that the letters all came from an institutionalized mental patient. On January 15th, the task force got a strange lead. A caller said that the Grimes sisters' bodies were in Santa Fe Park, just southwest of Chicago, but the caller said he saw it in his dreams. The call was traced, and investigators determined that the call came from a man named Walter Krantz, who worked at a liquor store. Walter was a pretty big guy, 6'5", 225 pounds. During the day, he worked as a steam fitter. And then he had a side job, I guess, at the liquor store. Walter was questioned several times and even given a polygraph test, which he passed. He kept telling investigators that the information he provided came from a dream, and his soul was clear.
It's strange for him to have a dream of where he thinks these girls' bodies are exactly at. It's almost like he's psychic.
Yeah, I mean, people have dreams all the time. Some are very specific. I mean, if I had this dream I would think it was very strange. A week later, on January 22nd, 1957, a construction worker named Leonard Prescott was driving east on German Church Road in the town of Willow Springs, just southwest of Chicago. He thought he saw two flesh-colored mannequins on the other side of the guardrail. He described it as noticing these flesh-colored things in a ditch. Leonard drove home and asked his wife to go back with him to check out what he had seen. Leonard and his wife, Marie, walked up to what they thought were mannequins, but quickly realized they were human bodies. Marie reportedly fainted, and once she came to, the pair found a phone and called police. Once on site, the investigators confirmed the nude and frozen bodies were the Grimes sisters, Barbara and Patricia. When they were found, Barbara was lying on her side, with her legs slightly drawn up towards her torso. Patricia was on her back, with her body covering Barbara's head and her own head turned sharply to the right. So a couple of things, Gibbs. I mean, first of all, worst possible scenario.
Yes.
You know, we talked earlier about the family's hope from some of the sightings and thinking, okay, we still have some hope. They've been seen alive. Well, now that hope is gone.
Yeah.
Once Barbara and Patricia are found, The other thing is, this man and wife thinking that they're going to walk up and check out some mannequins and making this grisly discovery.
So no doubt, the family's hopes have been crushed. And this poor couple, I mean, this woman passes out over what she sees, and this is going to haunt her and him for the rest of their lives. To see something like that, two dead bodies that close, and to know who they are. It's these sisters that's been in the news all this time.
The girls' bodies were taken to the medical examiner so that autopsies could be performed. The Chicago Tribune from January 24th, 1957 said during the autopsies, they found no signs of outward injury except for rodent bites on both girls and 3 small superficial penetration wounds on Patricia's chest. The wounds were consistent with a stabbing from an ice pick. It was mentioned in the report that the girls' bodies appeared to be exceptionally clean. The autopsy also found no signs of sexual molestation or abuse, but it was noted that Barbara had recently had sexual intercourse. Neither girl was strangled or poisoned, and the medical examiner had no idea how they died. Toxicology reports showed they had no alcohol or drugs in their systems. They knew the bodies had at least been at the discovery site since the most recent snowfall, which was on January 9th and 10th, but they had to send tissue samples to the lab for further testing to see exactly how long they had been there. They found food in Barbara's stomach, showing that she had eaten 3 to 6 hours before she died. The condition of both bodies led police to believe that the girls were thrown in the ditch shortly after they died and were most likely not kept anywhere else for any substantial length of time after their death. The county called in 2 other forensic pathologists to assist in the autopsies to help determine the cause of death, but neither of them could come to an agreement on how the girls died. The small stab wounds to Patricia's chest were determined to have occurred post-mortem. The final autopsy report said that both girls died of secondary shock due to exposure. Their death certificates listed their cause of death as murder. And then a few rows down listed this same secondary shock due to exposure to the elements. When the tests came back regarding the food in Barbara's stomach, it matched what Loretta said the girls had for dinner on the night they disappeared. I think based on this, the medical examiners determined that the girls most likely died within about 5 hours from the last time they ate. So we said they left the house, Gibbs, at 7:30 after they ate. So let's assume that they ate at 7 or around 7. This is putting their time of death sometime around midnight.
Yeah.
Between January 22nd and January 24th, the task force had over 150 officers involved at the site looking for evidence. Another 30 officers went door to door, talked to homeowners around the area to see if anyone saw or heard anything. The Chicago Tribune stated that the task force covered the crime scene site and collected some evidence and swabs during the search. The officers searched a perimeter of about 4 miles around the site and found 2 blouses, a belt, and a sweater. But when these items were shown to Loretta, she told investigators that none of that stuff had belonged to either Barbara or Patricia. Now, Gibbs, we mentioned a man named Walter Krantz and the dream that he had that the girls would be found in Santa Fe Park. The site where Barbara and Patricia were found was less than a quarter mile from Santa Fe Park.
Suspicious.
Well, I think it was suspicious to investigators for sure. It caused them to take a more in-depth look into Walter Kranz. One thing they did was analyze his handwriting against the ransom notes. They came up empty there. Walter took a second polygraph test, which he passed, except for one question, which was when they asked him if he had seen the dead bodies. The test showed he didn't kill them. He didn't know who did, but that he had most likely seen the body. Now, to me, this is very interesting because if you're asked that question and you've seen the bodies in your dream, how does that play out depending on how you answer the question?
So did he really see the bodies? Or was it so real like in his dreams that it's going to allow him to fail that question during a polygraph because he believes it's so real?
Or he believes he saw their bodies in his dream.
Yeah.
I don't know. Very interesting, though.
If he did see the bodies for real, it'd be helpful for the police to know when he saw them to have a better timeline.
Yeah, but if that's the case, then I think it makes Walter Kranz much more suspicious because that's not what he told police. Right. His statement was that he saw the bodies in a dream. So if he really had seen them at this site where they were ultimately found, well, then his suspicion level goes up quite a few notches.
Sure does.
The task force also had a new witness. A man named Reno Eccles came forward on January 23rd. He told investigators that he had seen the girls on January 8th. At a restaurant in Chicago owned by Minnie Duros. Reno told investigators he saw the two sisters in a booth with two men early in the morning around 4 to 5 a.m. When investigators questioned Minnie Duros, she confirmed that the girls were in her restaurant. She even picked the sisters out from a photo lineup. According to the Chicago Tribune, Minnie told them that the younger sister appeared to be sick or drunk because she was staggering. Once they sat in the booth, the four of them were listening to Elvis songs, and then they got up to leave, but Patricia was too sick and laid her head on the table. Minnie recalled that the other three were pleading with her to get up and get in the car. Minnie asked the three to leave her alone, but Patricia got up and went with the others. Minnie said she did know one of the young men with the girls that morning. He was a past employee who washed dishes at her restaurant. His name was Benny Bedwell. So as you can imagine, Gibbs, investigators wanted to talk to Benny Bedwell. About what happened when he was with the sisters. Around this same time, and days after the official autopsy report was released, one of the coroners, Harry Gloss, came forward stating that he disagreed with the report. He believed that the girls' bodies did show signs of molestation and that their faces had apparent signs of injury. He also challenged the time of their deaths. He told the press that Barbara's stomach contents did not match what Loretta said the family had for dinner that night. He also believed that the girls' bodies were not left at the site where they were found until January 13th, and that they died just shortly before being placed at the site. Harry's theory was based on the weather conditions and the fact that the girls had a layer of ice around their bodies that he thought could not have happened if they were not warm when the snow was there. According to him, there was not enough snow to create the ice before January 9th. After making this public statement, Harry Gloss was fired by the chief investigator, but it was also leaked that Barbara had indeed been sexually assaulted. It was not casual sex, as had been reported in the autopsy. Barbara and Patricia Grimes were laid to rest in closed caskets on January 28th at Walschlager Funeral Home. A mass was held at St. Maurice Church, where Patricia attended school. The funeral was attended by hundreds of people, including then Chicago Mayor Richard Daley. So obviously, Gibbs, this is an extremely tragic case. The thought of burying 2 young children to me is unthinkable. It's unbearable. There is so much more to cover regarding this case. But I think this is a good place to end episode 1. Yeah, as I said, burying 2 children, very hard to think about. But then you have to think about the parents' need to find out who was responsible for what happened to their children.
Yeah.
So in episode 2, we'll talk more about Benny Bedwell and the police investigation into the murders. There are some additional murders that rocked the city of Chicago and some possible suspects to cover.
This case is tragic, and we have more to come when we dive into the investigation, the potential suspects. There's a lot of twists and some well-known suspects.
Yeah, and this is a case we just could not do in one episode, right? This is a 2-parter for sure. There's just too much information, too much to go over. So that's it for episode 1 on the unsolved murders of the Grimes sisters. Part 2 will come out next Sunday night, so be ready for that. Gibbs, we got some voicemails. You want to check those out?
Let's hear the voicemails.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. It's Michelle. I'm from Edmonton, Alberta, and it means so cold here. I'm up to date on both your podcasts, and I was listening to the murder of Carrie and Stephen Turner today as I was cleaning the fish tank. And, I do all these kind of things when I'm listening to you guys, and my daughter comes in and she looks at me, and we've been having some problems. I'm a single mom, and she says, do you ever worry that me or Kale, which is my son, would ever kill you? And I stopped, and I looked at her, and I said, I am now. And she goes, well, that's what you're listening to. There's about a kid that could kill his parents. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, I don't worry about you guys. But anyways, that's my little story. Keep producing them. I enjoy them. Thank you. Bye.
We'll keep producing them as long as people keep listening.
Absolutely.
That was a scary case from that standpoint.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about it. You don't expect, nobody as a parent ever thinks that their son or daughter is going to, at some point, want to do them harm. And that's very scary.
It's very scary.
Hey, good morning, Mike and Gibby. My name is David. I'm calling from Moncton, New Brunswick in Canada. I really enjoy your shows. I listen to both. You've kept me company on lots of long drives for work. You've made me laugh. You've made me shake my head. You've almost made me cry with some of the facts. I just want to let you guys know that it's amazing what you are doing by bringing light to some of these unsolved as well as the solved cases. I am from England, but now I live in Canada. In one episode, you were talking about the car Jaguar. When I was in England, we used to call it Jaguar, so for what it's worth. And in one of the recent episodes, you were talking about a person who had a small handgun down by their ankle, and Gibby said, point my leg at him. When he said that, I had to pull over from driving because I was laughing so hard because I could just picture someone pointing a leg and pulling the trigger. Anyway, keep your own time ticking. Keep telling the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm not alone in saying this, but we all really appreciate the work that you're doing.
Some very nice words. Very much appreciated. But I could actually see Gibby doing that. That's a technique that he's mastered over the years.
Exactly.
It's the kick the leg straight out and the gun's ready.
That's what that was saying. Keep a leg up on somebody.
Is that where that comes from?
Yeah.
I don't think that's a saying at all.
Hi, my name is Jessica Capola. I just listened to your guys' case on Kathy Monahan up in Maine. I actually live in Aroostook County, and I've never heard of this case before. So thank you so much for providing me more insight in the area where I live. Love listening to you guys. Love being a Patreon for you guys as well. You guys definitely helped me get through the pandemic because I re-listened to all the episodes for Unsolved and the original one. So thank you, and keep up having a wonderful time. Bye.
Something happened to her at the very end of that.
I didn't hear that the first time around.
Yeah.
That was either I'm getting ready to sneeze or somebody has come up behind me.
Yeah.
Now I'm worried.
Hopefully you're okay. And
please call back and tell us you're okay.
Yeah, that was an interesting case that we did on Unsolved about her. And you had those really good Canadian facts, where that county up in Maine was located compared to the rest of the
Oh yeah, that like 50% of Canada was south of that
Yep.
spot in Maine.
Yep.
Yeah, I was blown away by that.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. It's Katie in Utah. I love you guys, and I was just listening to the latest Unsolved, and my mom used to say to us, there were 4 of us girls, and she'd say, what do you just pour that shampoo down the drain? So that made me laugh when you were saying that about your daughters just pouring it down the drain. That's exactly what my mom used to say to us. Anyway, love you guys. Have a good night and keep your own time ticking.
Well, it wouldn't be so bad if they used like dollar shampoo.
Yeah.
But my wife has them convinced that they need this tropical, you can only get it from one island in the Galapagos. I don't know where the stuff comes from.
It's flown in.
I know what it costs though,
Right.
and that's the part that scares me.
Yeah.
So, and the bottles are huge.
Oh yeah.
They buy such big bottles, and to go through so much of it, it is almost like it's just being poured down the drain. They have a lot of hair.
They do.
I mean, I know they shower frequently.
Yeah.
Unlike you and I, but it goes fast.
Well, as long their hair looks good.
It does look good. It smells good.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what matters. All right, buddy. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
And Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.